Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's professional development seminar on getting the most out of your Microsoft OneDrive. Oh, what the heck is OneDrive? What can I do with it? Well, it is the cloud storage system provided by Microsoft, primarily for Office 365, though you can use it to store anything from that you have on your local computer. It is really the core of the Office 365 system. All the 365 apps, of which these are the four most commonly used: Word, PowerPoint, Excel, OneNote, but all of the Office 365 apps that we have access to through our new Office 365 subscriptions provided by the district store files on OneDrive by default. You can put them elsewhere if you work at it hard enough, but OneDrive is the default file save location for Office 365 applications. So it kind of sits here at the center of the system and communicates, and you have two-way communication between it and all of these, and as we'll see in a minute, also between it and Canvas. And the district signed up with Microsoft to give us a reasonable amount of storage, a very generous amount of cloud storage, 1 terabyte. That's 1,000 gigabytes. Absent large video files or immense PowerPoint presentations, none of us will generate a terabyte of documents in our lifetime.
I can get it.
Pardon?
Sorry, I should be muted.
Oh, no problem. I thought that was I can do it. Well, yeah, if you generate lots of video and put that in there, you can overwhelm a terabyte eventually, but that's still a lot of storage. All that we're almost ever likely to need for the sorts of things we'd keep in our in cloud storage. You don't want to keep video generally in cloud storage because it's difficult to work with it in cloud storage. Running video up and down an internet connection is, other than just to watch it, but to create it, to modify it, to edit it, and so on, is generally not a good idea. But Word documents, things like this, you really unlikely to ever need more than this. So it's a massive amount of storage. Indeed, when you create documents in Office 365 apps like Word or Excel or PowerPoint, they are saved to OneDrive by default. And OneDrive is marvelously stable. Never seen it actually lose a file. The chances of that are very, very remote because your OneDrive file storage is backed up, and the backups are distributed all over the world. OneDrive, like the internet, is sort of designed to survive even a nuclear holocaust. That used to be a funny thing to say before recent events, but it is exceptionally reliable. Your chances of losing something that we don't accidentally delete ourselves are very remote. And even if you do that, you've got 30 days to get it back. Actually, with our OneDrive for business and work, which we have access to, I think you get 90 some days of leeway. If you delete a file from your OneDrive, you can get it back from the trash folder, or the recycle bin they call it, within 90 days. So it's a really reliable place to put your files. And there are OneDrive apps for every computing device in existence, including Windows PCs, Macs, Android phones, iPhones, Android tablets, iPads. All these things have OneDrive apps, and OneDrive will synchronize your files among all of these devices. So you have access to all of the files that you have stored in OneDrive, unless you deliberately exclude them from this synchronization. You have access to all of these files, no matter what device you're using or where you are. Even if you go to a conference and use one of their public computers. Good question, Martina. I knew that was going to come up. I'll address that in a moment. Even if you're using a shared public computer, you can go to onedrive.com, which is a website, and you can get your files from there. And who has access to those files? Well, they are password protected. Someone would have to have your Microsoft account credentials in order to get into them. So they're quite well protected in that regard. Any cloud storage system, however, does have a super administrator somewhere. We've got one at the district, and of course Microsoft itself could get into your OneDrive if they were so inclined. And that would be true with any cloud storage system. But the chances of someone actually accessing your files is infinitesimal. Trust me when I tell you the guy who administers our Office 365 accounts at the district does not have time to go browsing through people's files or the interest to do so. Also, anybody who's given that kind of access undergoes quite a bit of ethics training and instruction, and is very much discouraged from ever doing something like that. Then that's not to say it couldn't happen, but the chances of it happening are very, very, very remote. That said, you would not want to put something in your OneDrive like personal financial information or something like that. I certainly wouldn't want to do that. I know people who do and store it there, and it's perfectly safe from hackers and people like that, or let's say it's as safe as anything online can be, because Microsoft, of course, has the resources to protect it and the expertise to protect it. But I still wouldn't put anything out there that I really didn't want someone else to see. But normal professional work documents and so on are safe as houses. In fact, they're safer than they are stored on your local PC, because they're backed up to the nth degree in OneDrive, and most of us aren't quite that religious about backing up our local hard drives. So you're much, much, much less likely to lose your data that's in or your files that are in OneDrive than those that are on your local hard drive. But there is at least a theoretical possibility that someone could that the administrator could access them. The only circumstances where I can imagine that happening is where they're looking for something that, illegal or something like that shouldn't be there. But that's not going to be a factor for you all, so it's not something that I worry about. But a good question, and one that needs to be addressed. And not only can you access your OneDrive files from anywhere, from any device, but you can share files from OneDrive with anyone you choose to share them with. You can share, as we'll see, you can share them with individuals, or you can share them via a link that you can provide to groups of people that you wish to collaborate on a document with. And indeed, OneDrive gives you the capability to collaborate on documents in real time, on Word documents, PowerPoint presentations, Excel spreadsheets, in real time across the internet, or asynchronously. People can work on a document on their own time and make modifications if the document is shared through OneDrive, is on OneDrive and has been shared with them. You can also automatically back up the critical files on your computer to OneDrive. This uses a chunk more probably of your OneDrive storage, but we've got tons. You can set OneDrive up so that it backs up your most critical files automatically. So there's almost no chance of losing them. And this happens in the background without you having to think about it once you set it up. It doesn't do that by default, but it can be made to do so. And OneDrive is also integrated with Canvas, both for us and for our students. We'll see how to use OneDrive with Canvas. We talk about, let's see, could you collaborate in an English composition class on a document in OneDrive? Absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll see how. It has capabilities very similar if any of you use Google Docs. This is Microsoft's version of Google Docs, or Google Drive, I should say. Google Drive is their cloud storage. OneDrive is Microsoft's cloud storage, and they have very similar capabilities. But yes, you can certainly, OneDrive is designed around the idea that people can collaborate on documents that are stored in OneDrive. So that's just some background information on what OneDrive is and what you can do with it. Now we're going to look at some of this in more detail. Any questions, any more questions at this point? And please feel free to just unmute. I've muted everyone just to cut down the background noise, but please feel free to just unmute yourself and speak up if you have a question. Okay, that's great. How do I get to it? Where's my OneDrive? How do I get into it? Well, there's a number of ways you can get into it. First off, you've got to have the OneDrive application on your computer or your mobile device. If you're running Windows 10, you don't have to worry about that. It comes with Windows 10 already installed. So if you're running Windows 10 on a Windows PC, you've got the OneDrive app. If you're using a Mac or an older version of Windows, you're going to have to go to your App Store, either the Microsoft App Store or the Apple App Store, which you find on the Apple menu in your menu bar at the top of the screen on the Mac, and install the OneDrive app manually. It only takes a second or two, or a few seconds to do that. And then you will have access to all these wonderful things in OneDrive that you have access to by virtue of having your Office 365 account from the district. Whoops. Yes, thank you, Rick. If you're having trouble seeing these slides, if you're in gallery view, you will be having trouble seeing these slides. If you go to the View button in the upper right-hand corner of your Zoom window, you can switch to Speaker View, and you'll see this full screen. Sorry about that. I normally try to mention that. Thanks so much, Rick, for picking up on that. All right. So, assuming you have the OneDrive app on your computer, you'll immediately see any files that are stored in your OneDrive cloud storage in your file manager on your computer or on your in the OneDrive app on your phone or your iPad. But File Explorer on Windows PCs or the Finder on the Mac will give you access to your OneDrive files. Let's see what that looks like on a PC. If I pull up a File Explorer window here, yep, you're seeing that. If you look in the left-hand pane here, your Drive pane on File Explorer, you'll find OneDrive. Indeed, if you have a personal OneDrive account or a personal Office 365 account as well, as many of us do, you'll see both a OneDrive Personal and a OneDrive sdccd.edu. Obviously, this is the business account. If you click on that in the left pane, you'll see the files that you have stored in OneDrive. It looks very much like looking at the files that you have stored on your local hard drive. As far as Windows is concerned, this is just another place to store files. So that's all there is to accessing your files, or one way you can access your files on OneDrive. Once you have the app installed, is to go to your file manager and pick that up. Let's see what this looks like on a Mac. Let me share my screen on my Mac here. Okay, I think you are, yep, you're seeing that. And now if I just bring up the Finder on the Mac, or a Finder window, and look in my left-hand pane in the Finder window, you'll see a OneDrive link there, assuming you have installed OneDrive on the Mac. And there's the same files. So it's just another place to look for files on the Mac or the PC in the File Manager. Kill that share. Moment. Come on. Stop share. There we go. Okay, now we're back to the PC. And here are all my files that I have stored in OneDrive.
Hi, Dave. This is
Yes,
Lena. I have a
Lena.
question. Hi.
Good.
I was noticing now you're going back on your PC, right? But when I have a Mac, do
Right.
you have a OneDrive Personal and OneDrive SDCCC on the Mac as well? Or
Yeah, if you have logged into your Mac on your personal Microsoft account, you'll see a personal OneDrive um, as well.
okay. I was just wondering.
Yeah, oh yeah, it
Not
will
really
allow you
sure.
to access any of your OneDrive accounts. It doesn't do it quite as seamlessly as the PC because, of course, Microsoft writes Windows as well as creating OneDrive. So it's always a little bit less seamless on the Mac, it seems,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not bad. It's not bad at all. It will certainly give you access to your work accounts. Just a matter of which Microsoft account you're logged into on the Mac. You can't really run Windows very much, do much in Windows without having being logged into your Microsoft account. That's not true on the Mac. But once you are logged into the and when you load the OneDrive account or OneDrive app on the Mac, it will prompt you to log into your Microsoft account on the Mac as well, and it keeps that. It remembers it until you, for a period of time anyway, before it logs you out automatically, and or you log yourself out deliberately.
So right now, Dave, do we have OneDrive?
You
A
absolutely have OneDrive right now.
Do we have it on our computer automatically, or we have to get the app like you said?
On the Mac, you have to load the app.
Oh, okay.
Okay, on a PC that's running Windows 10 or Windows 11, you have the app automatically. It comes with Windows. But if you're still running Windows 7 or 8, something like that, you would have to load the OneDrive app manually there too, and it will work. So
Okay.
I would strongly urge you to upgrade if you're doing that. Windows 7 and 8 are no longer uh,
Mhm.
fully
I
functional.
mostly use the Google Doc
Right.
for anything. I haven't been using the Microsoft.
I
Mhm.
understand. I've used Google Drive for years as well.
Mhm.
So I'm gradually transitioning over myself. I still have a lot of content on Google Docs or Google Drive. Uh, Saw a question: is it possible to move files from Google Drive to OneDrive? And yes, it is, but you'll have to download the files from Google Drive manually and then upload them or then add them to your OneDrive. You can do it in groups or one at a time, but it is something of a manual process. I don't know of any way to automatically or to move files in bulk automatically from Google Drive into OneDrive. I'll look into that. There may be some tricks to that that I'm not aware of. I've pretty much just left the stuff I have in Google Drive in Google Drive, and I use that there. And then as I'm transitioning over to OneDrive, I put new stuff in there, particularly things that I create in in Office 365 now. It's just so much easier to just let those go into OneDrive, and so much easier to keep track of files, to make sure that files get updated when you save them and so on. It's just Office 365 and OneDrive work very well together. Indeed, OneDrive is just a part of Office 365.
Mhm.
Let's see, there's something
Thank
there
you.
about push all the one to can't IT push all the OneDrive app to all computers? Certainly they could in Windows, but there's no need to because it's already in Windows. Pushing it to Macs that are on the network, I don't know. I don't really
Dave,
think.
this is Larry Foster.
Yes.
Um, in at least the MS building, my office computer is a Windows 7,
Oh my, yeah.
and they haven't upgraded that forever. I mean, maybe they're planning on blowing them up, whatever. And
Yeah, that's a good bet.
I don't know about the computers in the computer labs.
I
They're very, very
mostly
old.
Windows 10 by now.
Okay.
But yeah, your office computer, and of course, on your office computer, you don't have the capability in many cases to load an application like OneDrive. So that would probably require a little note to IT help at sdccd.edu. Say, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be using OneDrive here, and I can't get into it on my Windows 7 computer because I can't load the new app. And hopefully they'd be able to fix that for you, but that's a legitimate concern. Hadn't thought about that one. Okay, so that's that's how we get into OneDrive through the file manager. You can also get to your OneDrive by running the app manually on a PC, a Windows PC. Let me share this screen with you. On Windows PC, I can go to the search box here in the Windows taskbar and just type OneDrive, and that'll bring up the OneDrive app here. And I just click there and run it, and that just opens up a File Explorer window and takes me right to my OneDrive business in this case. So that's another way to get to it quickly. I can look for the OneDrive icon in the taskbar in Windows. It's a little cloud, obviously enough. I've got both my OneDrive SDCCD and my OneDrive Personal down there. If I want to get into one of those, I just click on that little icon in the taskbar down here. And it brings up my OneDrive status pane. Tells me what I've been doing in OneDrive. But I also have this button here to open a folder, and if I open that, bam, I'm in OneDrive. Same thing works on the Mac. In your menu bar on the Mac, on the top right, once you have your OneDrive app installed, you'll find a little cloud icon there. You can click on that and open folder, and that takes you to your OneDrive folder in the Finder. So, same stuff. Works just as well on the Mac as it does on the PC. You can also, if you're not on one of your own computers where you're logged into your Microsoft account, things like that, say you're on a computer at a conference or something like that, you can just web to onedrive.com. Pull up a web browser here, open a new window on the address line of the browser. I just type OneDrive. If I could type, onedrive.com, press enter. If I'm not logged into my Microsoft account, it will prompt me to do so. I am on this computer. So here's my OneDrive. These are my OneDrive files. Let's see. Actually, that appears to be my personal one. So if I'm in the wrong one, I can go to my little avatar image here. I can pull up my work or school account and sign into that. And bada bing, there are my work files on the web. And I didn't have to load the Microsoft or the OneDrive app to do that. I'm using the web browser to get in. So there are multiple ways you can access your files. And from here, I can do things like I can select a file and I can download the file if I need a local copy of it to work on. Or I can work on it right from here. I can share it with people. I can do pretty much anything I can do from the OneDrive app, or most of the things I can do from the OneDrive app, just from the OneDrive website. So you're never without your files if you have them in OneDrive and you have some sort of computing device with you and you have access to the internet. We'll talk in a minute about what you can do if you don't have access to the internet at some point. All right. Questions?
How about signing on? Like those of us who have Macs
Yep.
with the school account. Are you going to talk about that at some point in time?
If you open up OneDrive, when you first load the OneDrive app, when you open it up, you're prompted to log in with your school account, which will be your SDCC, the ID, login ID will be your sdccd.edu email address, and your password for your OneDrive for your Office 365 account is just the same password you use to access your district email, your portal password as well.
Thank you.
Did that answer that question?
Yes, I'll give that a try.
Right. I want to make sure of that, because that's critical. If you can't get into it, it's not going to do you any good. You're absolutely right. All right, so that's how we get into OneDrive. Once we're there, what can we do? Well, we can add files to our OneDrive so that we have access to them wherever we are, whatever device we're working from. One of the most common ways of adding files to your OneDrive is to save something from your Office 365 apps. Indeed, the default save location for your Office 365 apps is OneDrive. If you're using the web app, for Word or Excel or PowerPoint, it's very difficult to get a copy of the file onto your local hard drive. Microsoft very much wants that to go to OneDrive. Let's see what that looks like. Let me pull up the web browser again here. And just as a reminder, we get to our Office 365 apps at the district by, there's a website that you can go to at the district that is, the address is pretty easy to remember. It's myapps.sdccd.edu. This is linked to various places, and there are various help resources that have the link to this page. But it's easier for me, quite frankly, just to remember myapps.sdccd.edu. And this page serves a number of functions. It is designed to help students with utilize their new student.sdccd.edu email addresses, which they have now. All of them have. They may not know they have it, but they do have it at this point. And there's a student help page, but this Go to My Apps button at the bottom is good for all of us, employees and students. We just click on that, and we get a page that lists all of the apps that our Microsoft Office 365 account has access to, which is quite a list. Word being probably the most commonly used one. If I want to access my Word, Office 365 Word web app, I just click that Word icon and the Word logo, and here's the Word web app. If I make a new blank document, I just clicking there, and this doesn't involve installing anything on your computer. You can use it from any computer once you log in to your Microsoft account. We don't need to sit here and watch me type anything extensive. I'll make this a very simple Word document. And notice up here it says saved. As I was typing, it saved it. As soon as I stopped typing, it saved it to OneDrive. It's just entitled Document right now, but if I click on the word Document, it allows me to change the file name to something like Sample Word Doc, and what's today? 10/11/2022, so I remember when I created this. And it's going to go to so there's the file name. There it's saved. If I go to my files, it should be here already. I've sorted these by, there it is, Sample Word Doc 10/11/2022. It's in my OneDrive already. It goes right to it. In order to get a copy on your local hard drive, you have to go to the File menu and click Save As. And it says save a copy online. No, you want to download a copy. So you click download a copy, and then if you set your web browser up to ask you where to save downloaded files, the web browser will ask you, where do you want to put this? And I'd say probably in my documents folder, the documents library on my local hard drive, and save it there. And I have a copy of it there. If you don't have your web browser set up to ask you where to save downloaded files, it's going to put it in your downloads folder, PC or Mac. And you're going to have to go in there and find it and move it somewhere else. That's inconvenient. Every web browser has some way for you to tell it to ask you where to put a file that is downloaded from the internet. In Chrome, which is the most commonly used browser, you go to the Chrome settings icon in the upper right-hand corner of the Chrome window, and you go to Settings, and go to the hamburger here, the Settings menu, and look for Downloads. You can see that by default, anything that is downloaded in Chrome is going to be sent to the Downloads folder, and that's standard for most web browsers. But there's this option here, ask where to save each file before downloading it. If you turn that on, Chrome will politely ask you where you want to put that file. Otherwise, it's just going to dump it in the root of downloads, and you may end up with a mess. You can do the same thing in Edge, and Safari, and Firefox. Don't have time to cover all that right now, but if you want to know how to do it in one of the other browsers, send me an email, and I'll send you a little tutorial on how to do that. As a matter of fact, I probably need to make those tutorials and put them online anyway on our on-demand site. So I'll put that on my list of things to do here.
That's great. I just did it while I was listening to you. Thank you.
Mary! Good to see you. Good to have you. All right. Excellent. Yeah, if you use Chrome, as probably most of us do, that is it's very easy. Be nice if, let's see. Yeah. But with this is what saving files to OneDrive looks like in the web apps for Office 365. If you have a locally installed version of Microsoft Word or Excel or PowerPoint, if you have the A6 level of access to Microsoft Office, which is provided to students and contract employees, that looks something like this. Here's a file up in the locally installed version of Microsoft Word. If I want to save that to OneDrive, all I have to do is go up here to this little setting up here and set auto save to on. That will cause this document to automatically be saved to OneDrive. And if I make a change in it, like putting a space in there, it saves it. And see, it says saving. It's saving it to OneDrive. And now it's saved. So I don't ever have to worry about the power going off after I've typed 5 paragraphs of something in Word and then having the power go off and losing it. This way, every time you stop typing or you stop moving stuff around, you stop doing something in Word, it saves what you've done up to that point to OneDrive. So it's continuously updated. And that alone can save you hours and hours of trouble at some point. And of course, those sorts of things always happen at the worst possible time. So this is another great reason to use OneDrive and to turn on autosave in the if you have the locally installed version of a Microsoft Office app. Also, if you go to share the document, and we'll talk more about sharing in a minute, if you go to share the document and you have the document created on your local hard drive, it will automatically put a copy of it into your OneDrive, because you can only share the document if it's in OneDrive. So, OneDrive is just inextricably intermingled with all these Office 365 apps. It really is the core of the Office 365 system. Alrighty. How else can we get files into OneDrive? Well, we can just upload them using our web browser to onedrive.com. I have onedrive.com open here somewhere. We went in there a little while ago. There it is. There is a new file button here in the OneDrive web interface, and I can create a new document here. And let's see. Oh, and I've got an upload button. I knew that was there somewhere. I've got an upload button. If I click that, I can upload either one or more individually selected files or an entire folder to OneDrive. So that's another way to get files into OneDrive. But by far the easiest way to get files that are on your local hard drive or a thumb drive or whatever storage device you might have attached to your computer is simply to copy them into your OneDrive folder in your file manager, either in File Explorer or the Finder, by dragging and dropping the files or copying and pasting them. So what's that look like? Well, let's pull up. Here's File Explorer on the PC. And let's say I have a file here somewhere that I don't have in my OneDrive already. Let's see, go into Documents, find something here that's not particularly sensitive. My old resume, I'll try that. Let's say I want to put that in my OneDrive. I can just drag it and drop it over there, or I like to right-click and copy, and then just go to my OneDrive, just click anywhere in the white, and paste that file in. There it is. That's all there is to putting it into OneDrive. And I can do that, of course, with one file at a time, or I can select a whole group of files at a time and copy them all at once. Or I can copy in entire folders, copy and paste entire folders. So that's definitely the easiest way to add files to OneDrive if you're not creating them at the moment in a Microsoft Office 365 app. So OneDrive is very tightly integrated with Windows, and you can do the same thing with the Finder on the Mac. And so the OneDrive is very tightly integrated with the operating system, so that you can, in your file manager, be it the File Explorer on Windows or the Finder on the Mac, so that you can just copy files right into it. All right, questions about getting files into OneDrive? Okay. Do you think of something later? Another one of OneDrive's superpowers is that it will automatically synchronize your files across all of your devices. Assuming you have a OneDrive app on each of your different computers, and your phone and your tablet, OneDrive will synchronize all those apps together, synchronize the files among all those apps so that every device has access to all of your files. And it will do that automatically when you set it up. Now, by default, these files will be online-only files. That is, they'll only exist in OneDrive. And if you want to work with one of them, you just access OneDrive in one of the ways that we've seen, and click on that file, and then that file will automatically be downloaded to your local computer where you can work on it. It is possible, however, to tell OneDrive to store a file, or all files if you like, on your local hard drive as well as at OneDrive, so that you have a local copy of the file and an online copy of the file, so that, and then OneDrive will make sure that those copies remain synchronized. When you make a change one place, the change is automatically reflected in the other place. If you make a change in a locally stored copy of a file that's also on OneDrive, the OneDrive will update it on the web as well. So you don't end up with one version of a file on your local computer and another one in OneDrive and a different one in OneDrive. So OneDrive takes care of, or does what's called version control for you automatically. And you can tell, if you go under your file manager, you can tell which files are stored locally only, which ones are in the cloud only, and which ones are stored both places. Let's see what that looks like in File Explorer. Here we go. Here's my OneDrive, and this status column here tells me, and if I tells me tells me where that file is and where it's located, and how I can access it. The green circle with the check mark in it means I've got a local copy of this file, as well as one on the at Outlook.com in the cloud. If the little icon is a cloud, that file does not exist on my local hard drive right now. If I want to fix that, I can right-click on the little icon, and I can select Always Keep on this device. Or just right-click on the file again and click Always Keep on this device. Then I get a little download taking place, and now this file, I have a local copy and a copy on OneDrive that are synchronized. So if I make a change to this file, either place, that change is then sent. The other copy is updated, and the two copies stay the same. If the little symbol is a static pair of arrows chasing one another, means I've got that file open somewhere in an application and I'm working on it. And it's being updated automatically, wherever it might be stored. There's also a second type, or third type, I should say, of little icon you may see here, which is a green circle with a check mark in it, but it's not a solid green, it's just a green outline. That indicates an indication that, in fact, the file is available on this device, but that if I activate something called Storage Sense on Windows, after a certain period of time, the local copy of the file will be eliminated, and I will be left with just a cloud copy. That would be the same file, and everything will be up to date, but it will take the local copy off my hard drive to save space, and keep it in OneDrive where it's perfect, where it's safe as houses. Let's see. Oh yeah, and this just an extra little bit of information here. This file, the one that says add video using Canvas Studio, the little person icon indicates that that file has been shared with someone. So you know if you shared files just in OneDrive just by looking at this status icon here. So there's all sorts of information here. Oh, let's see. And you can change the status for multiple files at one time. I can select several files at one time and right click on the selection and say always keep on this device and change it. If the green circle is solid, it's that the local copy of that file is never going to be removed from your hard drive, no matter what else you've done. So unless you go in and change the status manually or delete the file, it's going to remain on your local hard drive and in the cloud on OneDrive. It takes a little while to get comfortable with just exactly where these files are and where they're going to stay and what you can do to change things and so on. That's been the thing I've spent more time figuring out than anything else. But it's all right there in that status column and those three statuses. Available on this device now. In other words, there's a local copy here now, but there's some possibility that could go away at some point in the future. If you've got the solid circle, it's on your computer. It's never going away unless you manually change something. And the little cloud icon indicates that there is no local copy on the computer. On your computer, it's stored in the cloud, but you can pull it up just by clicking on it and opening it with a double click, and then it will automatically download to your local computer. You work on it there, and the little status icon will change. So it's all pretty seamless. And once you get comfortable with it and get confident with what these status icons mean here, you got a very good feeling for what's happening to your files and where they are. And this whole concept's a pretty important one in answering the second most common question we get about OneDrive. First most common question is, can anyone else see my files? And we've already dealt with that. Yeah, a super administrator can see your files, and they would never do so unless there were some compelling reason to do so. But they could theoretically see your files. The second question is, what happens when I retire, graduate, move to another job? What happens to my files in OneDrive? Do I lose access to them? They're still making this up in IT as they go along in terms of long-term policies like that. It will probably turn out to be something like, well, you have access for so many semesters or whatever after you leave. Or perhaps they'll say, well, you lose access, but upon request we can restore it. If there's something in there you need, or if you come back, if you say as a student, if you graduate and after I think it's 2 semesters, you lose access to those files. If you come back later, the files are not deleted. They remain in the cloud. If you come back later, you'll have your access to them be restored. The same would be true with, say, an adjunct faculty member who didn't teach for a while and then came back and was given another teaching assignment. Your files would still be there, but you might not have had access to them in the interim. You would not, indeed, probably would not have had access to the online copies of the cloud copies of those files in the interim. The solution to that is to just make sure that everything in your OneDrive is in this status. The always keep on this device status, so that you have the full green circle with the check mark in it. In that case, those copies are going to stay on your local hard. You'll have a copy of them on your local hard drive. The disadvantage to that, of course, is that it takes up space on your hard drive. And one of the beautiful things about OneDrive is that you don't have to use up the storage space on your hard drive for everything. You can just download files and work on them as you need them, and then put them back in the cloud and not have to use up, not have to go and buy a bigger hard drive or another hard drive or copy stuff off onto an external hard drive or whatever. OneDrive will take care of all that for you. And that particular property, the particular functionality in OneDrive is called Files on Demand. So how do we make sure that that is activated? Well, we go to...
Dave,
Yes,
before
please.
we move forward, I
Go
just
ahead.
want to, sorry to interrupt.
No, got a question?
Yes, because I was wondering, well, okay, I'm on the Mac. Well, is it going to say always keep on this device on the Mac as well when we want to save it?
No, that's a good point. Let me show you what it looks like on the Mac. Well, it does say that, but the icons are different. And I was about to move ahead and not show you that. Sorry.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
much. Thank you very much. Okay, let me share my Mac screen with you. Actually, finally broke down and bought a Macintosh after many years. In your OneDrive file manager here, or your Finder in OneDrive, it's a little hard to see, but I think you can see that to the lower right of every file is a little symbol. There's
Yes.
a cloud with a little downward pointing arrow.
Mm-hmm.
Those are cloud only files. If I want one to, if I want a local copy of that, I just click on that little symbol and it downloads. And now note there is no little symbol next to it.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is a local copy of the file, though there's also one on OneDrive. I can access it either place, and the two copies are kept synchronized. That is, they're kept identical automatically. You make a change one place, that change is then automatically reflected in the other place. But you know that this is a local file from the absence of the little cloud download icon.
Uh-huh.
You've seen on your iPhone too. Apple uses that icon for a bunch of stuff. But if you don't see that, then the file is local. If you do see the little cloud with the downward pointing arrow, then it's only in the cloud.
Uh-huh.
And there is no third status on the Mac because that storage sense I mentioned doesn't exist for the Mac. That's a Windows only application. We'll talk about that a little more in a minute, okay?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
That's what it looks like on the Mac. And thank you for mentioning that. I was about to forget to do that. All right, now I'm back to the PC. And Files on Demand is a property or capability of OneDrive that I was just demonstrating for you. What I haven't shown you is how to set that up. How to turn on files on demand. Just make sure you're signed into your Microsoft account. And let's see, I'm going to need to share my other screen with you here in order to show you this. You'll go and either on the Mac or the PC, you'll find the little OneDrive icon. Either in the taskbar on the Windows, it'll be on the bottom of the screen, bottom right. On the Mac, it'll be in the top right. Click on that little icon, and there's a settings link, or a settings icon here, the little geared wheel. If you mouse over it, it says Help and Settings. If you click on that, you get a menu. And what you want here is Settings from that menu. Here's your, whoop, lost it. Just a second. Get it back. There it is. Okay. And at this point, under the Settings tab in this dialog box, there's a Files on Demand option. You can, generally, I've found that to be checked by default. So things will behave as I showed you in the File Explorer a little while ago. If you want to make sure that all of the files that you create and put into OneDrive are also available locally, that there's a local copy of those as well, you can uncheck this. And you get this warning that says, oh, you sure you want to do that? All of your OneDrive files are going to download to your local PC. They'll still be on OneDrive, but now you'll have a local copy as well that will be synchronized. I want to cancel that. I don't want to use all that space right now on my local hard drive. But you can, if you uncheck Files on Demand, you will be able to ensure that you have local copies of everything as well as cloud copies, and that happens automatically. No matter how you add the files to OneDrive, you automatically get a local copy if you turn off Files on Demand. If Files on Demand is on, then it's governed by the, whether you've told Windows file or the Finder, Mac Finder, file by file, whether to keep a local copy or not. But turning off Files on Demand will ensure that you have a local copy, but will also use a lot more hard drive space. So you just have to decide which one you want to go with. So that's one way to basically not use OneDrive if you don't want to. You can just turn off Files on Demand, and while your files will be saved to OneDrive, you'll also have a local copy of them. So you don't ever have to worry about not being able to access that.
I'm sorry, Dave, how did you get that to pop up?
I went to the little cloud icon in the taskbar. I went to the settings wheel, little geared wheel, and went to the settings link, and then to the settings tab.
Thank you.
In the box that pops up, and it's right there. Yeah, you notice I pulled this up before I demonstrated that. I wanted to make sure I remembered how to do it. Let me send you the link to this Microsoft support document that tells you how to work with, or how Files on Demand works. Let me put that in the chat tool here. Files on Demand support. Okay, if you click on that link in the chat that just popped up, and it'll come up in a web browser, and you can bookmark that and keep track of it. or I will be saving the chat log here, and I'll make that available when I put the recording online. I'll include that chat log with it so you can go and pull that out later if you need it. But this is all different, and it's just not as straightforward as it probably ought to be. And I can really feel that because I'm still learning how to use OneDrive as well. And I'm constantly going back to support resources like that and reminding myself how to do something before I mess up. So that's how you activate or deactivate files on demand in OneDrive. Probably your OneDrive is automatically operating in that mode already, though you can check that using the process I just showed you. But if you want to turn that off, if you don't want to use, if you're using Office 365, it's very difficult to completely avoid using OneDrive. But if you want to make sure that you have local copies of all your files, you just turn off files on demand. Why might you want to do that? Well, maybe you just don't trust OneDrive fully yet. Maybe you worry about what would happen if you lost your internet connection and you had a critical document that you had to work on for work tomorrow. Or maybe you're worried that you'll lose access to your files if you graduate or move on or retire or whatever. Well, if you have all local copies of all your files, you don't have to worry about that. They're on your local hard drive as well as on OneDrive. So you're never going to lose access to those local files. It just costs you more in disk space. So you have lots of options about keeping track or keeping access to your OneDrive files. Okay. Storage Sense is kind of an intermediate solution that's available only on Windows. So your Mac folks, I'm sorry, this doesn't exist in Mac OS at this point. But it does give you another option. And we talked about that, the icon that's the green circle that's not filled in with the check mark in it. These files could possibly be under the control of Storage Sense. And what Storage Sense does is it checks periodically to see if you've accessed a file. And if you haven't accessed it in 30 days, it deletes the local copy of the file and keeps the one in the cloud. So that little icon eventually would turn from this icon to the little cloud icon. And that will happen automatically. So files that you're not using, and indeed you can set the time threshold on Storage Sense to remove files on any schedule you wish. But this keeps you from having to store files that you're not currently using. Yet, if you're actively working on the file, you don't have to keep downloading it from OneDrive to work on it. Though that happens automatically, so it's not that big a deal to not have that on the Mac. But it's an extra convenience on a Windows PC because, again, Microsoft, Windows, all the same company. So how do we set up Storage Sense? Well, and again, I'm gonna go back. We go to you go to your Windows Start menu, or I'm still sharing my main screen here. if I go to, the easiest way to get to this is just go to the search box on your Windows taskbar in the lower left and type storage, and that will take you to your storage settings under your system settings in Windows. God knows you don't want to go looking for that. Just go to the settings app in Windows and look for this. Search for storage in the search box down here, and then go to the storage settings. And here's Storage Sense. And I have Storage Sense turned off because I don't want it removing files if I don't tell it to. Also, until a few days ago, I didn't know Storage Sense existed, so I didn't know to turn it on. But I chose not to turn it on, but it's a choice. You just click this icon here, you can turn on Storage Sense. And you can also configure Storage Sense here. And if you turn it on, you can select when Storage Sense will remove local files. You could just say, if my disk space gets too low for Windows to operate properly, start taking stuff off, putting it and just leave it in OneDrive. Or you can do it every day, every week, every month. I'm going to leave that off. But that's how Storage Sense is activated. Again, you go on, and this only works on Windows. If you search for storage in your search box on the Windows taskbar here, go to Storage Settings, you can turn it on and off right here. So, just another option that you have for conserving disk space. You can also stop OneDrive sync if you just don't want it operating at all, so that your files will remain on your local hard drive and not be sent to the cloud. That's going to be a problem if you're using the web apps in Office 365, because they're going to want to they will in fact save to your OneDrive. You just won't have access to it through the file manager, through File Explorer, or through the Finder. You're going to have to go to the OneDrive website to get you your files. That's going to be very inconvenient. But if you just don't want OneDrive syncing, maybe you just don't want it to sync for a period of time while you're doing something, you can turn off sync in OneDrive by clicking on the little icon either on the PC or the Mac. And let's see, that is, if you click on the settings wheel, and you're not seeing that, excuse me. Okay, do that again. If you click on the little cloud icon, click on the settings wheel, now you're seeing that. There's a pause syncing button, or an option in that menu, and that will stop syncing until you go back in and tell it to resume. So that's another option if you don't want to use OneDrive. And a couple of folks have contacted me and said, how can I just turn this off? I don't want to do this. I don't want to mess with it. Well, that'll do it. Deleting files. You can delete files from OneDrive in any number of ways. You can go to your OneDrive folder in the file manager, and let's find that little file that I created earlier. Sample, it was called sample Word doc. Okay, I can just delete that by clicking on it. Either right click and select delete, or I can just click on it and press the delete key on my keyboard, and that file will go away. Bada boom. It is not lost and gone forever, my darling Clementine, at this point, however. It is still it is on OneDrive, you just don't have access to it in this circumstance. There is, however, in OneDrive, if I click on the, let me share this screen again. I got to keep track of what I'm sharing here. If I click on my OneDrive icon, there's a recycle bin for OneDrive, just as there is for your PC or your Mac. If you go to the recycle bin, you'll see files that have been deleted but not completely removed from OneDrive. And let's see, that should be in here. Where is it? Let's see. I don't know why that's not empty, or why that's not updating. But once the files are in here in the recycle bin, they do still count against your 1 terabyte of storage. But the they will be retained on OneDrive. Yeah, I did just refresh my window. It hasn't caught up yet. I'm not sure why. But I can always retrieve one of these files from the recycle bin by just right-clicking or command-clicking on it and clicking Restore, and that will go back to my active OneDrive, and if I have syncing enabled and so on, it will show up on my file manager. If I don't do that, these files will remain here for something like 90 days in a business OneDrive account, like the type we have. The file will be lost completely. You can also at any time delete the file from the recycle bin to get rid of it completely, or you can empty the entire recycle bin if you don't want any of that. You can empty the entire recycle bin, get rid of all of them, but that's irreversible. They are gone, gone, gone at that point. So be sure that's what you want to do. All right. So, there's also an option. I know this works on the PC. It's supposed to work on the Mac too, but I haven't been able to get that to work, I'll be honest. But you can also have OneDrive do an automatic backup of all of your critical files without you having to copy them into OneDrive or save them to OneDrive or designate them to be synced with OneDrive. You can set up so that OneDrive will automatically back up all your most critical files. By your most critical files, what Microsoft chooses for you, and you can't change, is that OneDrive backup, if it's activated, will back up everything in your Documents folder, PC or Mac, everything on your desktop, and your Pictures folders. They figure those are the most critical, the places you're most likely to have critical files. And if OneDrive backup is enabled, those files are backed up automatically, and it's a dynamic. If you put a new file in one of those folders, it's automatically backed up to OneDrive. To set that up, that's not on by default, generally. To set that up on a Windows PC, here we've got it. Here's how to back up your folders with OneDrive. Let me put that link in the chat tool for you. Larry, I see you. Will it delete a cloud and also delete a synced file? If you delete a file from OneDrive, it takes it out of the cloud and out of your local OneDrive folder and puts it in the OneDrive recycle bin, where it will remain for 90 days or so, and then it will be gone. So yes, both. Let me put this backup resource here in the chat tool. Activating OneDrive backup, which is something beyond the normal functioning of OneDrive. And there's the link to the resource that I'm showing you here. Turning it on on the PC is pretty straightforward. You just, and let me share I'm still sharing my Windows screen again, or my Zoom screen again, so I can click on my cloud icon, either on the Mac or the PC. I can go to my settings wheel up here. Keep seeing that. I can go to settings, and there's a tab for backup here. Whoop. Lost it again. I can click the backup tab, and I can select manage backup. And it does, there are a couple of things that can't be backed up, notably my Outlook archive files can't be backed up. I'm not quite sure why, but it won't let you do that. But you can back up all of these folders, the desktop, the documents, and the pictures, by just clicking Start Backup. That's going to trigger a massive amount of uploading on your from your computer through the internet to OneDrive. I wouldn't click that right when I was planning on using the computer for a bunch of other stuff. I'd maybe do that just before I go to bed at night, start that process, and by the morning it ought to be finished, but it's going to pretty much clog up your internet connection for a while. And once that's done, and I'm not going to do this, once that's set up, anything that's in those three folders, desktop, documents, pictures, is going to be continuously backed up, and you don't have to do anything to make it happen. So you really can't lose those files, which is very comforting. You're supposed to be able to do the same thing on the Mac, and for one reason or another, I have not been able to get this to work on my Mac. When you go to settings, you get this backup, you get this dialog box on the Mac, and there's supposed to be a backup tab there. And I haven't seen that yet, but you may well be able to get that to work on your Mac as well, if you so choose. You just look for this little backup icon in the preferences window for OneDrive on the Mac.
So Dave, I was sorry to pause here,
No,
but
go ahead.
thank you. I was just wondering, so the backup of the files and pictures and so forth will go to the OneDrive,
Right.
and let's say all your personal pictures are going to be going there too, and
If you have personal pictures in that folder, yes.
Mhm.
So that may
And
be something you don't want to do. This
uh-huh.
is an optional feature. You do not have to, it does not come enabled by default, and you do not have to enable it. It is a convenience that you can do. And you really need a good backup strategy. And this is a very easy one to implement. And you've got that huge amount of cloud storage, so this is very tempting. But it could end up putting some of your personal, it would end up putting some of your personal photos in your business OneDrive. For that, that's the reason I don't have it enabled on my business account. But you can enable, if you have a personal OneDrive account, personal Office 365 account, which I do, I could enable it there. And I did at one point, but this was before I went ahead and bit the bullet and bought the 1 terabyte of storage for myself personally. So it very quickly filled up my 5 gigabytes of free OneDrive space I got. So that wasn't practical. So I turned it off. But here's what it looks, just to show you what it looks like. If I go to my OneDrive personal, I get desktop documents and pictures right at the top. And these folders were at one time automatically updated from this computer. But I just decided I didn't want to do that. I didn't reactivate or didn't set up OneDrive backup when I bought enough cloud storage to hold everything. I might change my mind on that at some point in the future. I certainly wouldn't want to do that with my personal, my home computer. On my business, my SDCCD OneDrive, your office computer, though, if you have an office computer, that a Windows computer, you might well want to, or a Mac, you might well want to back that computer up to your business, your SDCCD OneDrive. That would be perfectly appropriate. And you'd never have to worry about that old clunker of a computer that you may have on your desk in your office dying on you and losing a bunch of files. So that might be an appropriate thing to do in that case. Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
You bet. Good question. Thank you.
Just FYI, Dave, I
Yes,
guess because you tweaked my personality, my curiosity.
Curiosity.
And so I did a quick search, and a family plan, which gives you 6 terabytes, is $100 a year.
Actually, a family plan gives you 6.
Yeah, 6 terabytes, a terabyte per person.
And a terabyte per person, and it's $100 a year. That's what I have.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's incredibly competitive with anything else that's out
Oh
there.
boy, that's still about the cheapest way you can get that much cloud storage for that many different people. So
I think I pay almost that much money for 1 terabyte for Apple.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
for
so
iCloud
anyway.
Drive, absolutely. No, this is a deal by comparison with iCloud Drive, Apple's cloud storage, and that family account also gives each of your family members full access to Office 365, all the standard Office 365 apps, and they get the downloadable versions, the full versions of Word and PowerPoint and Excel and so on, all for $100 a year. So I couldn't pass that up. My wife had been working on Office 2007 for ever since 2007, and she was beginning to get a little cranky. So I said, well, it'll cost $100 a year. She just looked at me. I went and immediately signed up for it. So I think that's probably a very good idea. And that's something that anybody can do. For $100 a year, you can have up to 6 people have full access to Microsoft Office, and each of them have their own separate terabyte of storage.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hell of a deal.
It is. It is. Okay, let's see where we are. Sharing files. That's another one of OneDrive's superpowers. You can share documents with collaborators so that you can, more than one person can work on the document either at the same time or at different times. You can share these documents in an editable form, or you can just allow people to view them. If you want, if you have a committee and you're working on a document and you don't want to give up control of the document, you don't want to give everybody the capability to edit it, but you want them to be able to view it and comment on it, you can set that up as well. Or you can just create a link to the document that you can share with people. You can share with specific people, in which case the link that you give them can't be forwarded, so they can't then share it on with someone else. Or and it's all done through a menu that looks like this. Let's see how that works in OneDrive. If we go to OneDrive at any, let's just go to OneDrive on the web. You've got a share button here next to any of these files. If you click on that, you get this share button. You can decide how you can share it by clicking on this link. The default here is people in your organization, sdccd.edu only, with the link can edit. But if you click on that option, you have all these other options. You can fix it so that they can only view it. You can fix it so that anyone with the link can view it or edit it. So you're not limited just to people who are employed or matriculated at the SDCCD. Or you can share it with specific people. So you have quite a bit of flexibility in how you can share these. And if you want to share with specific people, you can just type names. Like, let's say I wanted to share this with Mary. Well, lots of Marys at the district. It's searching for them right now. Perhaps I needed to be a little more specific.
Better go M. King. Yeah.
There. I just had to type a little more. I can select Mary. And I can send this link, and I have it set so that Mary can edit this if she wants to. Or I can fix it so Mary can only view it. And then I can send that link. I can copy it here. But I can also send that link. Let's see, which one was I doing there? Yeah, this one. I can just send it, I can send this to Mary as an email with that link in it, and she can edit that document. But she can't then forward that email to someone else with that link in it. I'm sure there's a way around that, but it at least gives me some control.
I want to share with the group that I have been having trouble editing documents, and now I think I know why. I think that people are using this to kind of lock a document, almost like you would lock a PDF
You
to
can.
make it uneditable. Thank you, Dave.
Okay, well, perhaps that's it. All right, so that's how we can share from OneDrive. We can also do that from the file manager. If I right click on that document, I can share it. And I get the same dialogue set up. So once it's shared, the person will have, until you unshare it, the person will have the access that you've granted, either edit or view access. And if you've given them edit access, they can work on it on their time, you can work on it on your time, and collaborate on the document. Something that a cloud storage system gives you that no other system would. You can also share documents from within Office 365 applications like Word and Excel. And so if you want to share a particular document from within Word, for instance, you have a share button here that gives you access to share to the same capabilities that we just looked at. So you can share files in OneDrive. And finally, you can also use OneDrive with Canvas. We have a connector that connects OneDrive with Canvas, both for you and your students. Can you share a file to edit in a Zoom class? Yes, but you'd have to do it through, well, you could, yeah, sure. The student could, you could do that, and the student during the Zoom session could edit the document in real time, and you could be in there as well. Or a group of students, like you could break your students up in Zoom into breakout rooms, and you could create a document for each different breakout room. And if you knew in advance who you're going to put in which breakout room, you could then share that document with the appropriate people, and they could work on that while they were in the breakout room. There's no comparable functionality built into Zoom. You'd just be using OneDrive and Zoom at the same time, which would work perfectly fine. Okay, so where do we see OneDrive? Where do we access OneDrive in Canvas? Well, there's an Office 365 link in your course menu, unless you've removed it. Let me pull up Canvas here. I think I'm still logged in here. We'll find out in a minute. In your course menu, there's this Office 365 link. If you don't see that, you can go to Settings in your course menu and Navigation. And you can look for Office 365 down here below this line. And you can drag it, click and drag it up above, and then it will become visible, both to you and to students. I think in most cases you will find that link in your course menu already. When you click on that link, what it really is, it says Office 365, but what it is a link to your OneDrive. And here's your OneDrive files. You can bring one of them up and work on it right from there. And there are other things you can do with it, as we'll see as we move on here. So that Office 365 link, in fact, should be labeled OneDrive, but that's not the way they chose to do it, so whatever. It does give you access to all the documents that you've created in Office 365 and saved in OneDrive. If you don't happen to be logged into your Microsoft account on the computer that you access Canvas from, when you click on that link, you will be prompted to log in again with your district email address and your district email password.
Hi, Dave.
Yes.
I was wondering, so the students, are they gonna have, if you put it for them to be exposed to the students, are they gonna have access to your file?
Not to your files, no.
Not to my files?
Not unless you deliberately share those files with them by creating a link and providing them with the link to a
Oh,
file. But they will not have access to your files. They will have access to their files through
oh,
that,
to their files.
Hmm.
because they can't log into your Microsoft account.
Mm, mm-hmm.
Not unless you're extremely unwise, very careless with your
So to follow up on that, Dave, because I just had exactly the same question. I went to my Canvas account and I clicked on it and it opened my OneDrive like you
Right.
said it would. And so because they're not logging in as me
right.
and it's a shared login inside of my Canvas, I'm automatically logged into mine,
Right.
but I'm not logged into theirs and they're not logged into mine.
You can't log into theirs and they can't
Perfect.
log into yours. So it is secure, but a good question.
Thank you.
Okay. You can also insert links to Office 365 documents that you have in your OneDrive in the rich content editor. So if I go to make a page, for instance, Canvas page, and make a new page, we'll call this OneDrive example. I can use the electric cord icon in the rich content editor, the external tools icon, or the apps icon it's called. And one of the available apps is Microsoft Office 365. That opens up OneDrive. And I can pick select a file that I want to, and scroll down to the bottom here and attach the file. I get a link to that file. If a student comes along, clicks on that link, they'll be able to pull up that file. I can link Office 365 documents right into Canvas modules as well. Really simple. I just go to a module. Perhaps I should save that. Like that about Canvas. I wish more applications did that. I can go to a module. Here's a Office 365 demo module I've been using. I can add an item to the module in the usual way by clicking on the plus sign, and I can select external tool as the source of the item that I want to add to the module. And among the external tools is Office 365. If I click on Office 365, what do I get? No surprise, I get OneDrive. Which is why I said earlier that this integration with Canvas is really an integration with OneDrive. And I can pick a file and attach it, and then add the item to my module, and there it is. There it is. It adds to the bottom of the module. If I publish it, a student would come along, click on that link, and bingo. There's that PowerPoint presentation. And notice it is editable. So be careful when you do that. All right. So OneDrive and Canvas just work hand in glove here. Let me stop that share. I don't really need that going. Students have everything that we've talked about today. Students have Office 365 now. They may not know it. And they may not know how to use it yet, but they have it already. And as a matter of fact, they may have a better version of it than some of us do. They have a better. The district provides them with a better, higher level of access to Office 365 than they do me. And so students can create their own documents now in Word, in Excel, in PowerPoint, and all those other applications that they have access to just as you do. And they have their own OneDrive, and they can create documents. There's no question anymore if you're teaching a class, you want your students to submit the fulfillment of an assignment in the form of a Word document or a spreadsheet or a PowerPoint presentation to you electronically through Canvas. There's no question they have the tools to do that now. It's no longer, well, I really can't ask the students to do that because they might not have access to Microsoft Office. They do, period, now. And it just happened for them. They didn't have to do anything to make it happen. So they can create a Word document or a spreadsheet or a PowerPoint presentation, and they can submit that to an assignment in Canvas. That's now an option in the Canvas assignment submission screens. Let me pull up I'm in Canvas here as a test student account. And here's an active assignment in that same course I was in a minute ago. If the student goes to that assignment, they can start once they read the instructions and look at the rubric and so on, and they've created a file that they're ready to upload to this assignment, they can start the assignment, and now they have an Office 365 tab in their Dropbox, their assignment Dropbox. So they can click on that, and of course, what comes up but their OneDrive. Do have to log in, and in this case I'm going to log in as me because I don't have an account for that student, and I think that'll work. Yeah, those are mine. So let me see here. I think I have, yeah, in that folder I have an assignment that would be appropriate for this, or a submission that would be appropriate for this assignment. Let's see, there's screencasting definition. I just select the file that I want to submit to this Canvas assignment. Click Attach File. That file is selected. And then I just submit the assignment as the student. I get this, Canvas is processing your submission. You can leave, and it will continue to do so, and when everything is uploaded, because there's a lot of uploading and downloading and synchronizing here going on, this may not happen instantly, but once it happens, but the student can be confident that it will happen, and they don't have to sit there and wait for it. They get here's the receipt for that submission. And if I go to back to that course as me, as the instructor, and go to grades, go to my grade book, and search for that assignment, because I got a bunch of them in this course. There it is. look for, I was test student 7 there. There's test student 7's assignment that was just sent in. I click on that and go to the speed grader in the usual way to grade that. After a moment, boom, there is that Word document, student that I, as acting as test student 7, submitted, and I can proceed to grade it in the usual fashion. So students now have the capability to create documents in their Office 365 applications and submit them as submissions to a Canvas assignment. And there's no longer any limitation on assigning a student to create a Word document or whatever and submit it in Canvas. At least there's not the limitation that the student doesn't have Microsoft Word. Whether they know how to use it or not is another matter. That's another consideration. Yes.
I have a question about the students using the 365. I
Right.
have enough trouble trying to teach them how to do.
No, it's not your job to teach them how to use Office 365.
No, but I was thinking, is there? Do you have a video that is an
Actually, the IT department is providing them with lots of instructional materials on how to use their Office 365 accounts.
Okay, great.
Okay, on that, let's see, I've still got that up, I think. The My Apps page has student help, which includes which shows them how to, gives them resources showing them how to use Office 365. Whether they avail themselves of that or whatever is another matter. And that's, of course, another question. But it's not your job to teach them to use Office 365. So that would be unreasonable. But they do have resources. I am not currently creating specific tutorials on how to use individual Office 365 apps because that's not the role of Online Learning Pathways, and they understandably don't want to pay me to do that. But we'll see how that matures moving forward.
This OneDrive is so incredibly powerful. It
is so powerful, it just ain't as simple as it could be, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's a little overwhelming, actually.
I feel you. In preparing for this seminar, I probably spent more time, don't tell Brian, but I probably spend more time and charged Brian for more time than any other
Topic.
That I would thank you that I've done lately. It's just there's so many different ways to do things, and there's so many different ways to access it. And if you have this turned on, it behaves one way. If you have that turned on, it behaves another way. So it takes some getting used to, and that's of course the reason for this session today. And it's something we'll do. It is being recorded. And it's something that we'll do again. But
I appreciate
it's
it.
not something you're born knowing how to use, quite frankly. No matter how experienced you are at using different software systems, it takes a little getting used to, and I will admit that. And finally, in Canvas, there are things called student collaborations. Just real quickly on that, we're almost out of time. If I go back to Canvas and I go back to the to my course menu, there is a link available to your course menu. It may or may not be in there. You may not have activated it, but if you can drag it up into your course menu called Collaborations. And this basically just allows you to create a document or either a, well, if I add a collaboration, I can do it in either Google Apps or Office 365, but our students are not supported in Google Apps. They are supported in Office 365. So if I select Office 365 as a source of collaboration, I can create a Word document, an Excel spreadsheet, or a PowerPoint presentation. I can give it a name. Collaborative Excel spreadsheet. And this is all happening inside Canvas. It's using Office 365, but it's happening inside Canvas. I can give the file a more detailed description. And then I can go through a list of people, excuse me, who are enrolled in this course. And if I click on them, it adds them to the collaborators list here on the right. And I can do them a bunch at a time. These are the people who will have access to this collaborative document. You can do this strictly outside of Canvas in OneDrive, as we've already seen, but this is a way to do it from within Canvas and limit the collaborators very efficiently to people who are enrolled in your Canvas shell. If I save that collaboration, there it is. Oh, let me check again. Let me check that one more time and see if I put I didn't put test student 7 in there. I think he's there. There he is. Put him in there too. Okay. Now, here's that. This takes you to Excel web app, and there's an Excel spreadsheet. If I go back to where I had that student enrolled in that course, and go to the collaborations link, there's that Excel spreadsheet that I just created. You create it as the instructor, but you assign this student access to it. So the student now can access that Excel spreadsheet through their own Office 365. Just type something in there. Whoop. Oh, I need to edit. Turn on edit. Okay. And if I put that in there and go back to the same spreadsheet in Canvas and refresh it, do that. I can go back into it from scratch. And catch up. Why is that not showing up? Normally that works just fine. I'm not quite sure. Oh, maybe I didn't save it. That's possible.
Yeah, maybe you have to hit save changes.
Let me try that. Go back to the student version of it again. No, it's saved. So that should be showing up here too. Just took it a minute to get through because there's a lot of uploading and downloading going on. So now now those students could work together on creating this spreadsheet and turn it in as a group project because it would be in their OneDrives. So that's another thing you can do with OneDrive and Canvas. So This is just an incredibly powerful tool. It takes a little getting used to take advantage of all the different things you can do with OneDrive, but it's worth the time because it is the core of this Office 365 resource, the Office 365 account that we all have. And without OneDrive, none of this really works very well. Okay, I think I got out of that alive today. This one was quite stressful. Let me see if you have some more questions. Let me see if I missed anything in the chat tool here. Let's see. No, it looks like I've addressed everything in there. How about some more questions? I'm happy to answer questions as long as you have them. Thank you for the kind words, everyone.
See you next time, Dave. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for coming, Mary. Did you get what you needed out of it?
I did. Like I said, it's a little overwhelming.
Oh boy.
But
I'm not going to say you're wrong on that one.
I'm willing to dip my toe in the water now. Thank you so much.
Oh, good. It's worth the effort.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything that I can help with?
Hi, it's Bonnie here.
Hey. Hey, Bonnie.
I'm wondering, for somebody who hasn't used this before, where would you recommend to start using it in Canvas?
I think probably the most useful part of the Canvas integration is the student's ability to submit through their own Office 365. So that's probably the first thing I'd use it for in Canvas. Also, if you just want to link files into modules and things like that, that would be useful as well. Like if you've got some lecture notes or a PowerPoint presentation that you want to share with your students, I would use the ability to link that file into a module.
Okay, yeah, that's great because I've been doing a lot of that recently.
Right.
But not through the system, so
Not
that
through
would be
this
really
way.
good.
This is just another way to do that. You can obviously there are other ways you can share that file with them in Canvas, but this is just a very convenient one because if you already have the file saved in OneDrive, it's really quicker to put a link to the file in a module from OneDrive than it is to find the file on your hard drive and upload it as a file item to Canvas and create a link in the module and so on. And also, the file then will probably load faster for the students as well.
Oh,
from
yeah.
OneDrive.
Great. Thank you very much.
But basically, remember that Canvas integration is basically just a OneDrive integration. I like that the collaborations too, because that's an easier way to set up collaborative documents for your students if they're going to be doing collaboration through Canvas than it is to set it up just in OneDrive and then share it with, and pick out the students to share it with and so on, because you don't have to go and search for the students through the entire student user database at the district and so on. And if your student's name is John Smith, good luck with that. But if you're setting it up in Canvas, well, you probably only have one John Smith in that class.
Right.
Or of course, with our district, it'd be much more likely, be much tougher if the student's last name were, say, Lopez.
That's right.
You're never going to find all the Lopezes in our database, but you can find them in your Canvas student list a lot faster.
Right.
Well,
Well,
that's just
thank you so much.
brainstorming that with you there.
Yeah, I just need a few areas to get
So,
started in.
a reason to get a toehold in it. I understand. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, bye-bye. Thanks again.
Thanks for coming. You were the first one here and the last one of the last ones out. So thanks for being here today.
Bye-bye.
All right. Vicky, Mosday,
I'm okay.
great.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate your time. No question.
Thank you. Thank you for showing up. Anything else I can help with? OneDrive or anything else? If not, I will wish you a wonderful, what is it, Tuesday evening. And I'll go ahead and stop the recording here, and
You
we'll
too,
get this
Dave.
online as quick as we can. Yes, ma'am.
I said thank you for your time. I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you for coming. Take care. Bye-bye.